Hello everyone and welcome to the weekly roundup by blockchaingamer.biz. Today is Friday the 3rd of November and I am your host Jenny Jordan and with me is co-host John Jordan. Hi John, how's it going?
Hello, yes, we're back after a week on holiday. Well, we weren't a week on holiday, but we had a Friday off last week, didn't we? So
We are, yes, that's right.
Yeah. But we're
Good.
raring to go. Cover all the news.
Quite a lot of news actually this week.
Yeah.
And maybe strangely, one of the news we haven't even had time to write up yet because it just broke during the night and there's not been a press release or anything about it yet. However, the Sandbox has now opened the metaverse, which means users can create their own content and publish it directly on their land using the Sandbox free creator tools.
Yep.
Is that right? Got that right?
Well, I mean, I'm slightly frustrated about this, given that I've been following the Sandbox since 2018, so as long as anything's been around, and this is quite a big deal. So if this is what it seems to be the case, that now anyone who has a land NFT and has made made anything using the Game Maker tool, which has been the Game Maker tool's been live for a couple of years now, they can. I mean, I've not done it yet, so I'm sort of surmising what I would imagine it would happen with. But you basically can make something, make a little sort of map or something, and make a little game, and then there's some sort of button presumably where you hit publish, and then that is published onto the Sandbox for if you've made it a public, a public experience. Then presumably anyone can drop into it and come and play it. So, that at the moment it's a bit frustrating because all there is a tweet that just says this has gone live. And because they're in Hong Kong for Hong Kong Blockchain Week or something like that, it's maybe they're a bit busy.
Creators Day.
Yeah, haven't put out a press release or something, but it just seems a bit bizarre that this is sort of, in many ways, these sort of accumulation of what the Sandbox have been doing for 5 years. That there's not a bit more sort of PR hype about it. So but
even mid-year when they announced that this was imminent now and it was going to happen before the end of the year.
Yes, that's what they've always said. Yeah, they've always said
a lot of write-up about it then either.
They've always said this will be out before the end of the year, but they've never sort of given a date for it or anything. And it's so it's just a bit weird. I guess the other thing with the Sandbox is the Sandbox. You could argue, is it live or is it not live? To some degree, the Sandbox has been live for about a year, because if you log onto the Sandbox, there's always some experience you can go in and play. So those things are not permanent; they're sort of a rotating selection of brands are having things live. But the idea that all that stuff's live and just sitting there, and people can just today I'm going to go into Snoop Dogg's land, and tomorrow I'm going to go into. Or then after that I'm going to go into the Care Bears, and then I'm going to the Walking Dead, or all those sort of brands they got in there that people can just go into there and come Jenny, come into my little funny castle game that I've made or something. I think that's quite a big deal. So I guess we'll see more PR about it in the coming days. But they do have. I mean, there's 166,000 NFT lands in there. I mean, I'm sure the majority of them won't have things on there. People have bought them for speculation, but they're presumably there are hundreds of developers who have built what looks like quite cool things. So
yeah could it be maybe that they don't want to get overwhelmed and have sort of the servers?
I mean, there's all that sort of stuff when stuff goes live, and I guess the other thing for user generated content, you always get that thing where I can't believe there's no moderation, because you always sort of have to have moderation in there, because otherwise people clearly abuse it. But the first thing you sort of get, and I think sort of journalists in those sort of situations actually actively go out and look for people doing bad things, and then write headlines saying, "I can't believe that my child went into the Sandbox and there were people, whatever the thing that they hate." I mean, let's just say sort of making Nazi castles and blah blah. Obviously we can think of much worse things that people will be doing in there, but that's sort of a standard sort of trope for the likes of the BBC and such, and we've seen that in Roblox all the time. So I guess that might be a reason why they're not, they're being a bit more sort of cautious about it. But we'll see. I mean, it's good if this happened. I need to, after the podcast, need to look into it and see if I can get anything up.
We do write it up. Yeah. Good. Another conference or event this week has been Solana's Breakpoint, which has been in Amsterdam. And during that, they also announced their GameShift, their Web3 API for game developers, with which they want to encourage developers to get their games on Solana, obviously, and build Web3 experiences. And yeah, that's it. Do you want to fill us in on that, John?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think you've covered it there, really. I mean, I don't think that, there's lots of sort of companies offering these sort of services, and they've been around for a lot longer. So there's like sort of Stardust offers that obviously Immutable, and much more of a sort of a controlled sort of platform. Mythical Games, obviously, again, another platform. Forte, if they're still going, no idea what they're up to, but that was their whole promise. So it's not like developers have been sitting around waiting for these sort of things to happen. And I guess the other big trend that's really happened over the last year is people going sort of multi-chain. So the fact you've got an API, even if this GameShift is the best gaming API ever created, a lot of people just go, well, I'm not very interested in Solana at the moment. So, and obviously we've seen, quite a lot of Solana projects, in particular, going cross-chain and going into EVM, into the Ethereum ecosystem, because that's still where the majority of the sort of the developer interest and you could argue activity and DeFi stuff and all that. So, I guess it may be good for some of the people on Solana, but it probably doesn't move the needle sort of very much, I suppose, in the big scheme of things. I guess the other thing that came out from that conference, and again, it wasn't a massive thing, but Star Atlas is still the big game on Solana, and they've had this on-chain Sage Labs thing going on for a while. They didn't really talk about that. I've not actually, or saying that I've not actually looked at what the stream is, but reading up about it, they've announced sort of the sort of guild structure stuff. So they're doing sort of on-chain guild structure. So it very much plays into their, we're very on-chain and we're very 100% Solana. We're not going multi-chain or anything like that. So the vision behind Star Atlas is in 10 years' time there will be this massive fully on-chain game where you're basically like an EVE Online combat mining space game with all these communities having access to effectively DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations, effectively on-chain guilds, and they'll have access to real money, and they'll be doing things with it. And that's that's a vision that is certainly interesting. They're not the only people doing that. Obviously, but it's a totally different level visually. Alien Worlds have been doing that on Wax, and they're probably the most advanced, I suppose, in terms of having sort of guilds built into their game. But it's good to see. And I guess the other more broad thing is Solana is the Sol token is probably the best performer of this sort of current, whether it's a mini boom for crypto prices, but Bitcoin obviously over the last 2 weeks has gone from where it's gone $28,000 to I think $35,000 at the moment, so it's quite an uplift.
Yeah.
And that's sort of spreading, and basically what seems to happen there is Bitcoin sort of goes first, and then over time, if it stabilizes, then sort of all the other sort of smaller sort of coins start to get a little bit of an uplift, and NFTs get a little bit of an uplift. So, but actually Solana of those sort of bigger sort of market cap cryptos has done, I think I can't remember what it is now, 40%, something like that. So I think that's all sort of part and parcel of a bit of a sort of reboost for Solana. Obviously, Sam Bankman-Fried's just been found guilty of a trial, and I think that's he was very associated with Solana. So him that sort of business being put to bed probably gives them a little bit more of a sort of clean slate, and we put that behind us and we move to the future. And
no, John, it's the end of crypto, isn't
it?
Well,
no, we were laughing today that all these big media organizations were saying Sam Bankman Friday's guilty and it's the end of crypto. And you sort of like, you read it, you're just like, oh, brother. But there we go. Let's not have that conversation.
No, let's not dwell. Let's put that behind us. Right. In Ronin news, there's been quite a lot around Ronin, really, and Axie, Sky Mavis these last couple of weeks. Really, they're showing themselves to be a strong, solid developer. And they have launched the Machines Arena has launched their open. No, not the open. This closed beta season 2 on Ronin, but the one that is open now is Pixels. They have successfully migrated to Ronin from where they used to be on Polygon before.
Yep.
So players can now creator account on Ronin and start playing the game. Pixels. And then there's been some more news regarding Ronin, that the ACT Games studio is bringing their games also from Polygon to the Ronin network, and that's particularly the, what's it called,
Zoidz Wild Arena.
Zoidz Wild Arena. There we go. However, perhaps the more exciting news is that they have also said they're making a Hello Kitty game for the blockchain that's going to come out in 2024.
You've got a suggestion for them, I believe.
I do, yes. I mean, I'm sure someone else has already thought of this. But if I were to sort of suggest something for the for the developer, this is my suggestion.
Hey, fantastic! That's good.
I mean, I think obviously those who listen to the podcast can't see this, but it's kind of a merge of CryptoKitties and Hello Kitty, and I think it just works. I mean, it's like it's a marriage made in heaven, really. You know, Hello CryptoKitty.
Frankensteinian, absolutely. Yeah.
So
good.
There you go.
Yeah,
you saw it here first. Remember?
Well, we'll see what Dapper Labs say about that. I think that's probably unlikely.
That'll be the next breaking news, John. New partnership, collaboration.
Yeah. Good.
I can see us getting some new hats coming in soon as well.
Good.
Right, that's that. What other news have we got this week?
But I would just say, we just re-emphasise is, Ronin really on the business side have been sort of stepping up. I mean, it's been, this is sort of obviously the fruition of, lots of work, and there's still lots of stuff going on in the background. I hear lots of people are talking to Ronin about coming on that chain. It's still, it's sort of still the case that, at the moment, actually on Ronin, it's still very Axie Infinity oriented. So most of the stuff on there is clearly Axie. I'm not even sure that the Machines Arena is actually live on Ronin yet. I know the game is live as a Web 2 game. I've not played it for a while, but I'm not sure it's positive that it's integrated with Ronin yet, actually. But there we go. But Pixels is live. Not played it yet. But that's quite an undertaking. The Zoidz games also currently migrating from Polygon, so it's interesting that we have a few Polygon games moving to Ronin. I think the sort of wider question will be, as sort of Ronin adds more of these sort of games, obviously they're not all going to be successful, and it's sort of which of these games is going to find an audience among the people who currently have been there for Axie Infinity, which is not to say that those people are only going to play Axie Infinity. But if you like Axie Infinity, and we know the geographical sort of the geographical location of a lot of the Axie players was Southeast Asia, and they were very mobile focused. So it seems to be games that will appeal to a sort of Southeast Asian audience who generally play on mobile are probably going to be the ones that do sort of quite well. So that'll be interesting to see how that sort of plays out.
Yeah, and the latest news actually is that Cillian Wales Wild Forest has launched their open beta on Ronin now, so players can go out and try that one out.
And I think that's definitely. I mean, you've followed that quite a lot, and I think I don't think I ever played their mobile game, but I did definitely have heard of their mobile tower defense
Mushroom
games.
Wars series.
Yeah, and so they're a proper decent mobile developer doing their first Web3 game. I think they have a very, from what I've seen of your coverage, they they're not really making the wheel. They sort of know exactly about the genre. They're putting it on Web3, and I think that that will that should do quite well. I think that'll be the first, probably that I would imagine that to be one of the more popular games on Ronin. The other ones you obviously expect to see, if like a sort of a good match 3 game on Ronin, you think would sort of do pretty well. That would sort of appeal to that sort of audience. I'm less sure about the more sort of mid-core hardcore games. Obviously, there are people who play Axie in a very hardcore level, but I think broadly that audience. I mean, this is just me, obviously, shooting the breeze. But
and another game that you've been playing that is now looking towards a mobile release later this month is Nine Chronicles by Planetarium. So tell us about your experience of that game.
No, I am looking forward to this actually because so Nine Chronicles has been around for a long time, actually sort of 2018, 2019. I think South Korean developer Planetarium, walk their own, whatever the term is. They sort of, very much taken their own decision. They've come up with their own blockchain, which when they announced the game and all that, back in the day, that was quite original. So they got their own sort of infrastructure. The problem, and probably not the problem, and so they got this Nine Chronicles game, which is a 2D side-scrolling, effectively like a sort of idle RPG where you have a main character and he just goes along and battles all these baddies, and he basically keeps going until he dies, and then you sort of you gain loads of rewards, and then you sort of level him up, and he's got all this armor, really nice art style as you'd expect from sort of South Korean developer. Has its own cryptocurrency, which is called Gold, Nine Chronicles Gold, and as I say, runs on its own infrastructure, which is in some ways sort of great, and in some ways that's what the industry's moved towards over the last sort of few years. But in other ways, if you're running your own infrastructure, you have to have all the validators. You have to get companies to validate your blockchain. And back in the day when it was when I was first playing it, in 2021, I played it quite a lot. You used to get all these things saying blockchain reorging, which basically means the blockchain was unstable and the sort of transactions, it was creating I won't go into the details, so won't understand it, but basically creating loads of sort of orphan chains that were actually then not the blockchain that actually became the blockchain. Anyway, so hopefully they fix. Well, basically, if you have you can have, even with Bitcoin, you can have sort of some blocks that are being validated, but not validated by all the set, and then you might have a block that is sort of rescinded. And the smaller your validator set, the more likely you are to have these what can be fairly long blocks, which then are actually not the main blockchain. They're called orphan blockchain. So anyway, that was in the early days. But when I was playing it, I always thought, because it's an idle game, this would be great on mobile because that's how it's just how you play games on mobile. And it was a bit of a pain on PC to sort of you wanted to sort of drop in and out. You didn't want to just sit there with it open, because it's not you're not doing anything second by second. You're not moving or shooting or hiding or trading or anything. It's just like you're just waiting for your guy to finish that level. So I'm quite looking forward to that. The only annoying thing is I lost my main account for some reason. I didn't get the private key, or maybe it's my fault, maybe it's their fault, I don't know. So I have to start again from scratch. But I think it's
I'm sure you're not the only one, John.
No, and it wasn't worth it. I didn't put any money into it or anything, but I did have quite a good character with quite a lot of, it was level, I can't remember. It was level 100. I got him up to level 100 actually. Yeah, I got a video about that. So and it is interesting to see that Nine Chronicles is growing. So its on-chain activity has been pretty good in 2023, up to about 40,000, peak of 40,000 daily active users. So when it goes mobile, you'd expect that growth to sort of keep continuing. They raised like $32 million last year, so they got quite a lot of money. So that'd be one I would look out for, because it just is a really sort of solid experience. They've spent 4 or 5 years doing their own blockchain stuff. I think they maybe working on some other games, doing some publishing as well. So that I don't quite remember what they called their chain, Planet Lib or something. Yeah, I think that was the term they used for it. So I think they may end up becoming a bit of another sort of gaming chain. We'll see. But good luck to them.
Good. Right, and earlier in the week we had news of Animoca. They acquired Azarus, the blockchain streaming platform. And
yes.
You said you had them on your podcast.
Yeah, I know Alex.
In the day.
Yeah, back in the day. Yeah, Alex again. Alex, who's the CEO of Azarus, was one of those early guys he was before me even, but certainly in 2018 Lazarus was there and live. It was incubated at Ubisoft, so it was in a few Ubisoft games. Basically what it is it's like a layer for streaming. So if you're streaming a game on Twitch and people have installed Azarus, sorry, I should say, you can do things like ask questions, or sort of have little interactive sort of things come up on the screen, and then if people get the answers right, you can sort of give them these, what now is a cryptocurrency. Back in the day it wasn't a cryptocurrency, it was just like an internal token.
Right.
And then they can collect them, and then Azarus has a shop. So if you collect these tokens, you can go and buy PC, just normal games, you can go and buy them. So it's sort of like a bit of a loyalty program, interactive. So they raised a bit of money in 2 funding rounds. I think like a lot of these things, they found it sort of difficult to scale, and it's almost like you have to. The streamers will use it, but only if the audience has sort of installed it. And so you have a little bit of a chicken and egg where, you know, people don't install. It's quite hard to get people to install Chrome extensions, I think, and no one really needs any more games because there's so many games that are free anyway. So there's a sort of little bit of a I think they found it difficult to sort of scale what they were doing, even though it was an interesting tech. So Animoca was one of their investors. So it makes sense. Animoca bought them. The price wasn't announced, probably wasn't all that much. I imagine those sort of deals, what you would do is have quite a small amount up front and then have what they call an earn out. So if the product reaches certain revenue targets over the next couple of years, then the shareholders of Azarus would get, you know, additional payouts. So that was, I imagine, how they structured it, but I'm guessing there. But the good thing for Azarus as a tech is obviously Animoca has like 400 investments and in probably, you know, over 100 games. So they'll probably find it easier to get Web3 games to sort of promote it and maybe integrate it a bit more directly into the games. And because they're part of Animoca, they can sort of do, you know, they can just, it makes it easier for people just to try it out without it being a commercial deal and having to sort of sign all these legal papers.
Okay.
So hopefully that sort of solves the big problem I think they had, which was sort of onboarding games into to actually use it. I think, you know, if you had 1 million people using it, then it would be great because all these, you know, all this token, the token's now cryptocurrency, it's live, so you could cash it out, or you could, you know, there's lots of ways you can think of getting people to spend that money. It sort of becomes like an advertising, you know, engagement device, which those are sort of things everyone's looking for. But it's a case of you need to get it into enough games to get people to use it, and then flywheel it. So. Yeah, but good for Alex, I think, because he's worked hard on that. And it's, you know, being a CEO of a startup is never easy. So
yeah. In other Animoca Brands news, there was this announcement of a strategic partnership with the Saudi city ecosystem Neom, which would invest 50 million into Animoca. Yeah, and we also had the news of Lamina 1, really the October update, and I mean we were mostly excited about the little game experience that launched with that, like a playable demo called Space Lasers. Obviously a very basic one so far. It's mainly like a framework, isn't it, for developers to see how the tech works, how you can integrate NFTs and so on in your experiences. Browser-based arcade game, which
well, it's not even. I mean, it's such a light experience. It's
like a game. No, it's calling a game. Okay, like it. Yeah, like a playable experience. Basically, we did put it as the game of the week. Because we wanted to highlight basically the updates about Lamina 1. Really.
Yeah, I think it's always nice when sort of new blockchains sort of come, and I think Lamina 1, you know, is doing something sort of slightly different, I suppose, from other people. It's very focused on this open metaverse. Neil Stevenson, the author, is one of the sort of co-founders there, and they're sort of they're in beta at the moment. So it's a beta net. None of the tokens are real. It's going to mainnet, I think, fairly soon. But yeah, it's quite nice if you sort of just set up an account. You can, you know, I think the UI is sort of nice. It's a sort of web-based account, and it's sort of like a little bit different to having a crypto wallet. You know, I don't think it radically changes the experience very much. You're logging in with MetaMask, so it's an EVM chain. But yeah, I think it's sort of a nice sort of approach. It's sort of a nice little game where you sort of play the game, and when you get to certain high scores, it mints you NFTs in the background, sort of these better weapons in the. And then you can sort of, it did take me a bit of time work out how to actually use, how to equip those, because maybe, I don't know why. But anyway, it's just like a nice little demo. And obviously it's for their early access developers to sort of look at some code about how they built it and some documentation. And obviously those NFTs that are live now, but people can start building other games around that if they want to. But it's very, very early days. And obviously, you're looking at blockchains like Ethereum that have been around for 5 years or whatever. Bitcoin 15 years, the white paper. So but I think it's always interesting to see, and it is always amazing that there are all these new blockchains launching. There's stuff about Saga, which is sort of another one, and you always every week come across another blockchain. But I think Lamina has a slightly different vision to what other people are doing, and we'll sort of see over time whether they can fulfill that.
Good. Right, I think on that note, we're going to close this week's roundup. and we'll see you all next week.
See you
Bye-bye.
next week.
Thank you for listening.